When you think of the Souls games, you probably think of the bosses, but in today's video, I'm going to switch it up and we're going to be talking about enemies, specifically the worst enemies in Souls games. So what I'll be doing in today's video is ranking the top 10 worst enemies with a couple of honorable mentions. So the criteria will include a lot of things. I mean, just overall, in a sense, just how much I liked it, like how fun they are to fight, if they're repetitive, if they're boring, if they're unique, if they like fit into the area and like bring out the game and like the playstyle that you should be playing the game in, just like shit like that. Overall, whatever makes it good. And before we get into the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, tell me in the comments if you have any enemies that you absolutely hate that weren't on this list, or just any enemies in general, or just fucking tell me any thoughts that this video promotes. Just comment something, please and thank you, and let's get into the video. And you could either put the honorable mentions before the number one spot to hype everybody up and give some anticipation, or you could put it before you start the video. And I'm going to put it before we start the video. And my first honorable mention are rats in general. Now, I don't like fighting rats at all, but I do think they are pretty easy to hit, and they, for the most part, don't do a lot of damage. Their poison can be very annoying because I'm pretty sure in a lot of the Souls games they do poison you, but honestly they're a lot better alternative to fight than dogs. They're just slower than dogs, do less damage, and they have bigger hitboxes. So they're pretty annoying and I never enjoy fighting them, but they're not that hard to deal with. Now, my second honorable mention is going to be the DS2 mannequin guys. Now, I think these guys do have a lot of positive points, but they also have a lot of negative points. And for me, honestly, I think it's a very good and a very bad enemy, but for the most part, I think a lot of people hate them because they can kill you so fast. Like, they just stagger you, blood loss you, and basically one-shot you, which is super annoying, but also, like, makes you go through the area with caution. You know, you're scared, brings more motion and shit like that. So that you're either going to love this enemy or you're going to hate it, but you're most likely going to hate it. And my last honorable mention is the Painting Guardians, specifically, and I mean just only the Painting Guardians on that top part in Orlando where you have to go along those narrow ledges. It's just like one of the worst enemies you could put there because they throw shit at you, which is going to be super hard, especially because it can stagger you and hit you off. And they just have those crazy combos that are so hard to deal with on a narrow ledge. Like, they're fast enemies that you need to be able to dodge, and since you can't dodge up on top of that giant ledge, it can be pretty annoying. And now we're getting into the top 10. In my number 10th spot, we're going to Elden Ring, and that is the giant rune bears that you will find across every single area in this game. Now, honestly, they're pretty scary. Like, they look pretty cool, they're very intimidating, and when I first found these guys, I was scared shitless, and I thought they were a great addition to the game. And I still do think they are a good addition to the game, but they're just not fun to fight. Firstly, the camera while you fight them is horrendous. You can't see diddly squat. And secondly, the gameplay. Like, all these guys do is spam attacks and run around. You almost 99% of the time do not have any room, any time, or just, even if you do have time to hit them, you're gonna miss because they're just running back and forth. It is super annoying to fight them, but on the upside, they're not that hard. Like, they do very little damage safely, because if these guys did a lot of damage and kept killing you, it would be so annoying. So I don't think I've ever died to these guys above the level of 20, but there still is another negative/downside, and that is the amount of health these guys have. I don't know if it's just me, but every time I fight these guys, it takes so long. Not only because I can never hit them, I've never any time, they just stagger me back and forth, but they just have so much fucking health that it takes so long to fight them. Now, coming in the 9th place is actually another enemy from Elden Ring, and it's also early game too, which, I mean, I guess the Rune Bears could be early game and late game, whatever. That is the Stormveil Birds. I mean, the birds in general, but specifically the Stormveil Birds, because I struggle the most with that, and I think everybody else hates those birds a lot more than the rest. Now, honestly, I think the Stormveil Birds are a great addition to Stormveil. I think they fit the aesthetic perfectly, and I just think they go with the flow. Like, I think Stormveil is better with them there, but they are a super obnoxious enemy. Firstly, because you can most of the time never hit them. It's hard to predict their attacks, and obviously, if they're just throwing bombs at you and flying back and forth and hitting you, it is pretty fucking annoying. And although they're just birds with blades smacked on top of them, which obviously makes the combat pretty funky and not really fit Elden Ring, I do have to say they look pretty fucking cool. And I honestly would probably put these guys in honorable mentions, but a lot of people do hate them, so I'm gonna meet halfway in the middle. And now for 8th place, we're going to Sekiro, and that is the Twinblades, or more specifically, the Twinblade Monks in Senpu Temple. Now, firstly, these guys are hard as a motherfucker, especially for an enemy. These motherfuckers are way too hard. Like, I can understand if they were a mini boss that you fight once or twice, that'd be chill, but as an enemy, these guys are way too hard. And honestly, the gameplay, it's not like it's that unfun to fight them. I really don't mind it. It's not like I dread making a new playthrough to fight these guys, but it can get a little bit, like, repetitive, these, like, long, drawn-out fights, because these guys are so hard. And especially, they will throw, like, 2 of these motherfuckers at you, and there's just no chance you're dealing with 2 of these guys. It is just way too fucking hard. And I low-key just don't feel like dying and having to deal with 2 of them at the same time, so most of the time, I just run past these guys. And if you're running past them and trying to skip them, they're obviously not that good of an enemy. And for the number 7 spot, which is what I think we're at right now, we're staying in Sekiro and saying the Palace Nobles. Now, if you don't know what these guys are, They're like some slimy snake men, I'm pretty sure, that'll like give this effect on you, which turns you to an old man, and which at that point you might as well just get cursed from Dark Souls 1, because this thing, it's a death sentence. Like, you literally cannot move for like 30 seconds, so if there's any enemies near you or in visceral range of you, you're automatically dead. You cannot do anything. And the problem with it is there's so many of these guys. Like, there's so many of them spread throughout the area. You're obviously going to run into several of them, and they induce the effect like a little bit too easily, in my opinion. You just have to be way too careful, and I do like how it changes the area's dynamic a little. Like, you're a lot more stealthy, you gotta be a lot smarter, a lot strategical, but it gets to a point. Like, if they just as much as glance at you, you're dead. Especially because there's other enemies in this area that are fucking hard, you're donezo. But I do really think they have a cool design, and they are very unique, so I do like them to a certain extent, but I died way too many times and raged way too many times because of them. Now, coming in the 6th spot is something that I'm pretty sure only I think about. This might be just something that pisses me off, but those puzzle archer guys, like those archers for the puzzle to the Haligtree, we have to like turn those 4 lights on. I hate those guys with a passion. They do way too much damage, they have way too much health, and they shoot way too many arrows at you. So it's time to get into more detail about what I just said, because I basically just said a whole bunch of nothing. Firstly, they shoot 3 arrows at a time that go super fast and almost immediately hit you after they shoot it. And as soon as they shoot it, they pull back their bow right out again and start shooting again. So they have little to no downtime, so it's very hard to like use your own arrow to hit them. And you can't even like run at them. Like, they're on top of buildings, so you have to like do well-timed parkour, which is going to be super fucking hard when there's like 4 of these guys spamming arrows at you. And not only that, you gotta understand the absurd amount of damage this arrow does. Like, they can almost one, like a single arrow, I mean, it probably won't one-shot you, but like 2 or 3 of these are guaranteed to kill you. Like, they do so much damage, there's so many different arrows, there's so many different fucking archers, and I feel like the whole premises of this area is like, you're supposed to like stay on the upper part, like the towers, and do parkour there, because you have those invisible Black Knight assassins at the bottom that are gonna fuck you up. But you don't feel safe anywhere you can get raped in this area, and I go as far to say that these archers have a better chance and probability of raping you than those invisible Black Knight assassins down below. Next, I have the Dark Souls Remastered Bone Wheels. Now, honestly, I like them and I don't. It can get very annoying how if they basically hit you once, you're fucked. Like, you're gonna get staggered infinitely. And that's just because their attack is that they continuously go for it for quite a while. So if they hit you towards the beginning or just towards the midst of their animation, you're fucked, because once they stagger you, you can't move, and they're just continuously running into you, and every single time they rotate the slightest bit, they're going to tick and keep staggering you and keep dealing damage. So it's obviously a one-shot if you get hit. And it is pretty easy to get hit, especially because every time you encounter one of these guys, there's like 8 of them in the same room. So it's pretty hard not to get hit, and it's going to one-shot you, which is obviously pretty annoying. But I do think they're pretty unique, they're pretty cool, and honestly, once you like know their whole gimmick, it's not that hard to get hit by them. You just like swerve in lines. And you just have to know that if you put on a lot of armor and like put on a lot of poison shit, they're not going to hit you after that first roll. So most of the time, you can get out of that. And coming right after that is the Royal Revenants, and there's really nothing good to say about these enemies. Now think about this. An enemy has a unique super ability where it's super fast. That's pretty cool. An enemy has a unique super ability where it can teleport. That's pretty cool too. And an enemy has a unique ability where they poison you, which is not half bad, but you know, it's something. But imagine you put all these traits and other traits into one enemy. It gets overwhelming and overbearing and just kind of unfun. It's just too much to look at, too much to deal with, and the combat's just going to be all over the place. That is what a Royal Revenant is. Firstly, it has a fucking huge amount of health. Like, it's got a decent amount of health. It can teleport, which, why do they need to teleport? What the fuck do these guys need to teleport for? Secondly, they poison you. Thirdly, they do a lot of damage. And fourthly, they're fast as shit. Like, it gets to a point, like, it's just too much if we're being honest here. And next is the DS3 Jailers, which in hindsight seems so much better than the previous Palace guys, whatever you want to call it. Because firstly, if they look at you, you're not going to get instantly turned into an old man. They have to hit you, and that just lowers their health quite a bit. But this is Dark Souls 3. You can't climb on the walls, you can't run along the ceilings, you can't go behind them and one-shot them. This is a game that you can't really do much stealth in, especially because there's hundreds of these little fuckers in tight cramped areas where you're obviously going to run into several of them. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was definitely undermining that takes away a little bit of health. These guys will leave you with less than 10 health left. Like, they're just so fucking greedy. You don't need all that health. Now, coming in the second spot, I mean, you guys knew it had to be here somewhere throughout the list, and that is the Dark Souls 2 Snowy DLC Reindeers. Firstly, they're not too horrible to fight. I mean, they are pretty annoying. Like, their attacks, they have pretty shitty attacks. It's like, they literally just headbutt and kick you. That is their whole thing. It's pretty awkward to dodge, and I feel like they hit you out of dodges a lot, which seems a little bit unfair, and they have a lot of health. They do a pretty big amount of damage, and they kind of run around a lot. But that's where their combat, negatives end. The main point I want to talk about is not only the area where you fight them in, which you literally cannot see shit. It is a giant snowstorm where you literally, and I mean, I can't emphasize how literally you can't see anything for 90% of the time. And I mean, literally cannot see anything. And this would be fine if you just, fight a couple of these guys. This is a okay, mini boss and whatnot. But sometimes we'll be fighting several of these guys at a time, and that's because the windstorm brings them in. So it feels like there's no point in killing them. It's just a nuisance because it feels like there's infinite of them, because every time there's a windstorm, which blinds you, brings in more of these fuckers, which is just super annoying. But since it is Dark Souls 2, I'm pretty sure there's a way or something to make them stop spawning. And before we get to the number 1 spot, the big old badge of honor, or dishonor in this case, please make sure to like and subscribe and tell me in the comments anything I could do better and anything you want to see in the future, and just any takes you have on this video so far. And for our number 1 spot, it's not a specific enemy, but it is a very specific type of enemy, and that is all dogs. Every single dog enemy throughout every Souls game, I've never had fun fighting. All Dark Souls 2 dogs are way too fast for that game. They fucking bite you. They give you no time to attack them. They're annoying. Dark Souls 2 dogs are just as bad, if not worse. They suck. And I'm just not going to list every dog, because every dog fucking sucks. There's even dogs in Elden Ring that can just one-shot you because they count as 80 attacks and instantly fucking blood loss you. Every dog throughout the Souls series is unfun to fight because you can never hit them. You can never catch up to them. They're way too fast and they are just a fucking nuisance. And that's about it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you in the next one.